have now entered the Penny Bloom Podcast, hosted by none other than Colton Robertson and Tavares Pennington. I hope you are prepared for a show unlike any that you've ever seen before. Or heard, I guess it's a podcast, so you aren't going to see anything. And we're on the air.
Alright.
So, broad strokes, how'd you feel about season 8?
Season 8 was... My general perception from it is that they did the best that they could with what they had.
Yeah.
It was not the best model for storytelling, like the way that they structured this season and how quickly everything happened, because really the story isn't the climax, but there was just...
Everything
ton of
was
different
climax there.
Yeah, which in the grand scheme of things, I guess makes a little bit of sense with how long this show has been going. And it's like, you know, this is it. They need to tie it all together. But I understand why people feel the way that they do. I don't understand why people feel so strongly about it.
I agree. I think that, I agree that the writing was definitely rushed. But that's also because it kind of had to be, you know? They had 6 episodes. Mm-hmm. They needed to get all those climaxes in there. And the way that it feels like is that George R.R. Martin, mm-hmm. after season 5, when the books strayed away, mm-hmm. he gave David Benioff and Dan Weiss mm-hmm. these bullet points. Like, these are the big things that happen from here on out. Danny goes bad. Brandon's up king.
Yeah.
And part of it is I don't think you can expect David Benioff and Dan Weiss to write anything as good as George R.R. Martin did.
That's true.
It's unfair to really assume that the last few seasons are going to be as good as the source material.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's like, for me, there's this question of, how had things been going before that? Because they did have the books for that source material, but I think George R.R. Martin only wrote 1 episode a season. Yeah. And so he was obviously in the writer's room and stuff, and after he left, things sort of declined. Yeah. But was that decline just from our fascination with the books to a normal TV show? Yeah. Because there was no books for them to go off of, so they're just creating a TV show at this point.
And what's interesting is that these were still great seasons of television. Mm-hmm. They just weren't Game of Thrones standard great, you know, exactly. Seasons 1 through 5, and I'd say even 6. 6 was amazing too, mm-hmm. even though that was the last one, or the one that was first after the books. Mm-hmm. I think 7 and 8, they just didn't give themselves enough time. Yeah. The way it feels like is that they set up all these bullet points and they constructed it backwards. Yeah. They're like, okay, this happens, but how mm-hmm. can we get there? So then they work backwards. Mm-hmm. And that's why some of it might feel rushed. I think, obviously there's a lot of people who have beef with just the way the story went, which is unfair. Yeah. That's not fair.
That's not at all.
I think the story went great.
Yeah, I think that the ending really did provide some sort of, solace with the whole, I feel like it's completed. They did a good job of tying it, most things up. I won't say everything. But all in all, they didn't do a bad job writing. I think D&D know what they're doing when it comes to writing. They wouldn't have been able to make this show in the first place if they didn't. And there's a lot of people hating on them right now because of they're leaving for Star Wars. Which how do you feel about that?
I was about to bring that up. I'm encouraged. I think that this next trilogy with D&D at the wheel will mm-hmm. actually be probably better than the trilogy we just got.
Well, how do you feel about this? This is a little off topic, but how do you feel about the Star Wars trilogy?
I like it. Yeah. I like it a lot. Mm-hmm. But, you could throw Star Wars in the front of practically anything and I'll love it. You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And another thing about me is that this is more just a personal thing, not really... I'm entertained by a lot. It doesn't take a whole lot for me to be like, whoa.
Exactly.
This is awesome. If you've got these beautiful visuals that Star Wars always has, that Game of Thrones obviously had, mm-hmm. the visual effects are just astounding. Yeah. The writing for me, as long as the story is there mm-hmm. and I understand it, and even with this season where there were holes, but I could fill those holes easily.
Yeah.
Like, I knew what happened.
Yeah.
And I understood it. Then I think everything will be fine. And another part of that is that, like, with the Star Wars, I know that we're tying Star Wars and Game of Thrones back and forth, but with Star Wars, I think they have the time, and it's a brand new project where now D&D have to, quote-unquote, prove themselves again.
Yeah, that's true. But they have to prove themselves with a movie budget.
Exactly.
Which I think could turn to something spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, it seems like they wanted that movie budget all along. That's why they cut the season down in the first place. They were like, Game of Thrones is just a big movie.
It's a giant movie.
Yeah, it's a giant movie. How many hours is it?
Total?
Yeah.
I think it ended up being close to 80.
That's great.
From season 1, episode 1 to season 8, episode 6.
It's a lot of
Close to 80 hours. Just an 80-hour movie.
Imagine sitting and watching a movie for 3 days.
God. I'd do it for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, honestly, that would be a kind of fun pastime. Binging 2.0.
But I'm encouraged. I think D&D have and obviously I said they have to quote unquote prove themselves. They don't need to prove shit.
They don't.
They did that shit. Like they did fine.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a bunch of people who are gonna like hashtag boycott Star Wars. Like fuck you. fuck you, dude. Like that's just terrible.
Yeah.
I mean I have faith. I have faith
Yeah.
that they'll be just fine.
I do. The problem that I still kind of have with D&D is that it seemed like from what I've seen of interviews of George R. R. Martin talking about what happened and D&D talking about what happened, why they made the decision that they did, it seems like they grew disinterested in continuing this story.
A little bit, yeah.
And I can't for the life of me understand that, because it's like they knew like they could keep making seasons for another 5-6 years and people will still watch.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. But I think what's crazy is that the decision after season 6 to go, yep, we're doing season 7 and season 8 was actually entirely on them.
Really?
It was not HBO, it wasn't the actors.
Yep.
It was David Benioff and Dan Weiss. They decided we're going to do 2 seasons, 13 episodes total.
Which is crazy because, like, that is, like, a little over half of what the normal, like,
what a normal 2 seasons is.
Yeah, which is, like, going into that, why, like, how did they know that was the number, like 13, that was what they needed? And, like, I just don't understand why they would pick that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. I think it was reversed engineered. That's what it feels like anyway.
Yeah.
Is that they did these bullet points and then whatever they had in between these big bullet points, they're like, oh, that's all we needed.
Yeah.
7 episodes for season 7. That's it. We're good.
Yeah.
And then they did it for season 8 too. And obviously it would have been a lot better if they didn't do that. I think we actually could have gotten a much cleaner and drawn out conclusion if they'd just gone the full 10.
Oh yeah.
For both.
Yeah, no, we 100% would have. But then I guess the other side of that argument is you have to think about these people as human beings.
Oh, exactly,
like,
exactly.
They're not just, here to produce material for us. Like,
Exactly.
They want to go work on other projects. Game of Thrones how much? I think
this has been a decade of their life.
Yeah, this is a decade of, like, they grew up on this show. Now they're like, if I keep doing this, I'm gonna be Game of Thrones forever, and like after this, nobody will recognize me for anything else.
Exactly.
And it's like they don't want to get caught in that box, but God, that box is beautiful.
It really was. And I think David Benioff and Dan Weiss both, I don't know that anybody going into this 10 years ago could have foreseen how big this fucking show got.
No.
I mean, if you tell me in 2010 that the biggest show in the history of the universe is about dragons. And it's big time just nerd culture, just like what it is.
Nerd culture, yeah.
Like stereotypical nerd culture. I wouldn't fucking believe you. Like, it's just... No. I'm dumbfounded in the fact that, like, this has become my favorite.
Oh, yeah. No, it's like, I remember, like, for the longest, I didn't watch this show because I was like...
I don't know. It just doesn't seem like something I get into.
I was like, looks like a bunch of just, like, medieval hacks doing weird shit. Like, I don't...
And it's
like,
not.
It's not at all. Like, it is up there, like, with like House of Cards level. Like when you think about like how they wrote the politics of the show,
exactly,
like, the things happening within it was so complex.
Yeah, it was so intricate, and I think I think what's beautiful about it is that it was a fantasy show,
mm-hmm.
but the emphasis wasn't on the fantasy.
Oh, no.
It was on the people.
Yeah,
and they made the most realistic fantasy show that there could ever be. I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because like, even watching it, it felt like real history. You know, like it felt like this definitely could have happened because they made it feel real, which is remarkable for any television show. But when it's a television show of this scope and this idea with dragons and an army of zombies.
That was the craziest shit to me when I realized that they were doing zombies. I was like, wait,
hold up.
Like, I think zombies, like the first time zombies was an idea, like obviously they originate from the leprosy disease, but like World War II.
Obviously.
World War II was kind of when, like, you know, there was all that talk about zombies, and they became like this huge public fascination in the United States. And the fact that they implanted that however many years ago, like Westeros is like set, like whenever that is, long as fuck ago, like that's just wild to me.
It's remarkable that they did what they did with what it was,
and I think that's part of George R. R. Martin's genius, kind of like his world building.
Absolutely.
Like, he literally, like, I feel like Westeros could have been a place. Like,
exactly.
I feel like it should have existed at some point, and he's just giving this historical portrayal of what it might have been like.
It's amazing what he was able to do. And what's even crazier is that, like, when he wrote these books, the Song of Ice and Fire series, he did it with the idea in mind that he absolutely did not want it to be a TV show or movie.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I remember that.
And he was like, he wanted to make it too complex so that it couldn't be.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that if you read those books, which I haven't yet, but I totally plan on doing.
Yeah, I plan on doing that too.
There are tons of characters that are not in the show.
And tons of characters that, like, are still alive that they killed off in season 2. Like Catelyn Stark, like she was not supposed to die there, and it's like I understand why they didn't flesh out the whole like what is it, like zombie ghost Catelyn Stark on the revenge tour, but like it would have been awesome, but like I understand why they didn't do it.
Absolutely.
But it just really makes me want to read those books even more because I'm like,
I want to see how much bigger it was, you know, because he dove into so many different facets of life, I think, in those books than he did in what the show was. Because the show, I don't know this about the books, this is completely speculation, but the show was obviously the big dogs. It was the political big people. Yeah. Besides Tyrion. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I think in the books he also dives into the little people, the citizens, a little bit, which I would love to see. Yeah. But it's amazing just what he was able to do with this.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me mad that it's taking him 20 years to write this series. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I know that he wants to make it the best that it can possibly be, and like from everything I've seen George R. R. Martin talk about, he is very much a perfectionist. Absolutely. And I seriously doubt that when these next books come out that they will be disappointments. Like,
they're going to be amazing. Yeah. You can't, and like, if your problem was with the story, then I'm sorry, you're not gonna like the books. Yeah. Because I don't think they completely changed the story. Yeah. They took what George R. R. Martin is going to write, and they made it their own. Yeah. And with George R. R. Martin's, you're gonna get the deep dives into who the fuck Bran Stark is. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because we don't know him. Exactly. We don't even like we don't even have like they haven't like portrayed the full array of his powers even in the show. Like, they're very ambiguous about what he can do, but in the books, I know that they're very specific about what they are. Like, his powers are so much more clear. And I think, actually, Bran is, like, one of the main protagonists in the books. Like, he is, like, he gets the most, like, chapters and things like that. Or is he the protagonist? Ooh. More on that later. Yeah. I think it was just amazing, the fact that he could create this world for so many to, like, 19.3 million tuned in for the finale.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
And I mean, and there's way more than that too. I share an HBO Go password with, I'm assuming, several people, because it's not mine. Yeah. So if you take that into account, there's got to be at least 25 million. I'm thinking.
Oh yeah.
At least
people are, and like Game of Thrones actually was the most illegally watched show online. So like I saw some report is like that the ad traffic that they saw, it was like in the millions, like millions more like viewers not even recorded as
That's
part
crazy.
of that. And I'm just like and it makes sense because I mean I know like if it came to that I would fucking illegally watch Game of Thrones.
Oh, absolutely.
Shit, like why the fuck not? But like, what do you think about the idea that this is the last like collective television event for the what we're calling the golden age of television?
I've had some time to think about this, and I don't think it'll be the last appointment viewing spectacle there is.
Yeah,
I think if anything, we're kind of at the beginning of it. I think we only have upwards.
Oh yeah.
To go from here. I mean, because if you think about it, the big four, I'd say, that have been that are widely considered the four greatest shows of all time are Game of Thrones, The Wire, The Sopranos, and Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yeah.
And the thing with all those is those are not that old.
Oh,
They're
no.
10 to 15 years old. You mean to tell me that we're gonna get worse from here on out?
Yeah.
No, there's no way.
That
we're gonna
make
get
sense.
better.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a lot to look forward to. I think the prequel for this obviously isn't gonna be this level, but I think the prequel. I think the working title right now is The Long Night. It's. I think it'll be amazing to watch too.
Blood Moon.
Blood Moon. I don't know.
Or yeah, it's something like that. I've heard about Blood Moon. George R. R. Martin said he has 5 in production or something.
Yeah.
He was like, I got shit ready on Hulu, fucking Nat Geo, I got hella shit ready. And I was like, I'm really excited to see what all of these prequels do in terms of bringing the core viewers back from the original Game of Thrones show into the new prequel shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think they left enough just unanswered about Bran.
Oh yeah.
And the Night King and what they are doing.
Yeah,
to do an entire different series just based around the relationship between the Night King and the Three-Eyed Raven. Not even specifically Bran, but what the plan is there.
So do you know the details of the prequels or what they've said so far?
The Long Night or Blood Moon, I don't know what it was, what it's officially called yet. There's a few working prequels.
I think it's called the Blood Moon and it's about the Long Night. The first Long Night.
And it's set 10,000 years earlier, which is roughly the length of the Long Night. So I'm thinking we're going to get a little more depth into what the White Walkers were.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think we're going to have to dive into the old Three-Eyed Raven and the Night King.
Exactly.
Which I'm excited to learn more about. I think they definitely did what they did in order to feed the Game of Thrones machine for decades, probably.
Oh, yeah. And they still haven't even what is Essos?
We could dive into a completely different country, and it's the same world.
The one that I want them to do is Old Valyria.
Old Valyria would be amazing. I want to know so much more about
when they first started taming dragons, and I think that's one of the shows that they are talking about having in production. But I do know for the Long Night, it's going to be Bran the Builder was alive in that time, and he's the one who kind of constructed the wall. So that's obviously a huge part. So I can't imagine, Game of Thrones fans not wanting to see that. It's fucking massive ice. How the fuck did he do that?
Exactly. It's miles long.
It's miles long. Yeah. So this is actually kind of minuscule, but a funny part of it was they show a shot of the end of the wall. I can't remember what episode this is in, but the wall extends a little past the ground. So it goes into the ocean.
Yeah.
How did they build that? How would you I know he had giants or whatever, but that shit is massive. And
it's magic too. It's because like that's how they kept out the army of the dead and the Night King is because that wall was built with a certain magic in it that kept them out. So that like they needed that big ass dragon to knock it down.
Yeah.
And the universe of Westeros Essos, just the Game of Thrones universe is alive and well, and it will keep going. And what I do like about the way they ended it is they left it open enough to where if Kit Harington or Macy Williams, I think Sophie Turner is going to do just fine. But if there is anybody in the show who I think might have a tough time from now on becoming anyone else besides Jon Snow or Arya Stark, it's them.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Kit Harington's going to have a rough time finding something else. If he doesn't, absolutely amazing. Yeah. Very happy for him. I think Macy Williams will probably also have a little bit of a tough time.
I think so. I've had that thought, but she is 23, 22?
Yeah, she's
super young. Yeah. Like, she started the show at, like, they were, like, Sophie and Maisie Williams were, like, kids. Like, kids when they started the show. So, like...
and Isaac Hempstead Wright, Bran.
Yeah, and this, I think it gives them a lot of... like, not even a lot. Like, I can't even imagine, like, the amount of credibility that they've gotten from this show.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and what's amazing, too, is the casting, the ability to pick those kids...
Yeah.
When they were that young, and for them to grow into these actors and actresses.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And you can watch them get better at their job, like, throughout the season. Like,
it's amazing.
Significantly better. And it's kind of like, this is, like, I really enjoy that they, like, did that with them.
Yeah, and I think what's very evident in Macy Williams is that I know a lot of people when the show ended want the Arya Stark West of Westeros.
Oh yeah.
But I don't want that for Macy Williams.
Really?
She's grown up as Arya Stark. Literally her entire over half of her life almost has been her as Arya Stark. So like I can't imagine the kind of toll it would take on you to portray this semi-psychotic killer for like 15 years if they were to keep going and like do all this. Like I mean, I'd like her to take a break, you know? Just like go do other things for a little bit. If it doesn't pan out, you know what? You have that to fall back on. There's
exactly.
And that's also the kind of setup I feel like they left for everybody. Is that like Kit can have that as a fallback. What's going on north of the wall. I don't think they'll do it, but what's going on north of the wall, they could always fall back on that.
So, kind of talking about these specific storylines, I will just straight up say, Arya's arc was the most disappointing to me.
Really?
Because I loved it so much.
and the way it ended?
I just felt like they could have done a consciously better job of making her a more important character in season 8 they did the seasons before, because I knew as soon as she left King's Landing and whatever, like that was early, like that was after season 1. She left King's Landing. I'm like,
she's gonna have an exciting arc.
Yeah, she's gonna have a very interesting arc, which she did, and then it has to like terminate for me in something equally substantial.
Yeah.
And it just, like, she killed the Night King or whatever.
Which is a pretty fucking big deal, though.
Which is a big deal. But there was no fallout from it. It was kind of like, yeah, she did the thing. Cool, thanks.
Well, yeah, and I think that also feeds into who she was as a character, though.
Yeah.
It's like, what's funny to me is that I did not see Arya killing the Night King coming.
Oh, no, I didn't either.
And I don't think anybody really did. I think everyone, like, just in the back of their mind was like, obviously it's going to be Jon Snow.
Yeah, obviously.
And then the fact that Jon Snow didn't do it, now we're like, well, obviously he couldn't have. This dude's the hero every single time. Why would you do that again?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to have Arya go through all this, the Faceless Man training, the becoming the most badass assassin alive, she had to do something to save the fucking world.
Yeah.
And she did.
Yeah,
you know?
She did. But she didn't... Also, like, they gave her this, like, whole, like, god of death, like, thing where she's, like, kind of tied to him and, like, she knows, like, the secrets and, like, she has these abilities. Yeah. But she uses them to kill Walder Frey, and then after that, it's just kind of like...
The way they handled the Faceless Man thing was disappointing.
Because that could have been so
cool. They had a lot of options there.
That could have been so cool.
They had a lot of options. And I do wish they would have used it. But considering the way it went with Cersei storyline, how they had Arya not end up going and killing her.
Yeah.
I think that's almost better. I think the fact that they had the Hound talk to her and go, this is not the life you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what your life is headed to if you keep doing this.
That's true.
And I think that not facilitated, but just emphasized how great the relationship between the Hound and Arya was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, just throughout the course of the series, I think that was a perfect ending to what they were. It's like, I'm the Hound, I'm a cold-blooded piece of shit who doesn't care about anybody. Yeah. But you, I don't want you to do this.
Yeah.
And he didn't give a fuck about anything.
That was sweet. I will say that made my heart happy.
That made me cry. I was like, Sandor. Yeah. And that was the first time she called him Sandor.
That was, yeah, it was.
It was beautiful.
It was very cute.
That was an amazing scene.
I really wanted to see her go off in the last episode. Like, just be like, you know what? Fuck all that shit. And she kind of like, it made more sense for her to be like, John, get your woman.
Yeah. But, like, hey, John, get your lady.
Yeah.
She gone cray.
Yeah.
What's funny to me is in that last episode when she was talking to John, she was like, she's a killer. I know one when I see it. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, no shit.
She just murdered thousands. And now you're saying I know a killer when I see her?
And
fuck off, Arya.
Yeah, this is a whole nother thing we'll get into later, but like, is Dany a killer, or is she this? Obviously, she turned out to be this killer, but like, did they give her enough showtime as this benevolent leader to justify it?
Okay, you know what? Let's just dive into it now.
All right, fine.
Yeah. Let's do this. I think her sudden break for bad makes it more compelling. I don't think I would have enjoyed watching her become this, which we kind of did.
Yeah,
we had time to kind of watch her become this. She, with Missy getting her head chopped off in front of her, Jorah dying in her arms, her two best friends who were always there for her, and honestly were the only ones who had any, like, real sway in her conscience, like, telling her, like, hey, you shouldn't do this, like, that's not it. And I think, the sudden break where she's sitting up there on her dragon, she's looking at the Red Keep, and she's like, she just breaks slowly, and Tyrion watches it, and he's like, oh, fuck, goddamn. Like, this ain't good.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I think that makes it more compelling to have had a sudden break.
I do too. But they talk about how, like, leading up to this, she said she will take back what is hers with fire and blood.
Yeah.
She did that before she slaughtered King's Landing.
Oh, absolutely.
But then in other in previous like episodes or seasons, particularly when she met the slavers and stuff, and they had
and she crucified them.
That was, nobody felt that bad about that. We were just like,
and Tyrion explains that really well.
Yeah,
in the finale, he's like, she crucifies slavers. Who can blame her? They're terrible people.
Which is, this gets to an interesting point, which we'll get to, but her determination of what is good and what is not, I feel like never extended to the point that they showed it in the show.
Yeah.
Because she was always one to be like, don't burn the kids.
Yeah, this is like,
be a human being, like, be a normal person with a heart. And she just kind of like snaps and loses it, which once again obviously makes sense, but at the same time it doesn't. Yeah, it does.
And I think the reason does make sense. And like, I'm obviously, I don't know if any of you can already tell, but I go to bat for DB Weiss and David Benioff pretty hard, and I don't even really know why. It's just kind of a bias I have. And but like, I think that, like I said earlier, with the deaths of Jorah and Missy, Jon ending up being her nephew and actually being the rightful heir to the throne, that really, really fucks with her.
It does.
And with a history of mental illness in her family.
That's true.
With her father being the Mad King.
Mm-hmm.
And another conversation that's been started here is the nature versus nurture. Mm-hmm. Like, Jon's a Targaryen.
Yeah.
Why does it matter?
Yeah.
Well, the thing was, he was raised by Ned Stark.
Exactly. He is a man of honor.
And if you want to go, well, Dany wasn't raised by the Mad King. Who the fuck was she raised by? Viserys? That guy was a fuck.
She was. I'm not sure how old she was supposed to be in the show when this happened, but when she got married to Khal Drogo, she was 13 or 15.
Yeah, she was 13 to 15. Like, that's the age group I get there.
Yeah, she was young as hell. And if they were, they couldn't have been, because there are laws against that, actually. You can't portray a person who's supposed to be a kid in sexual scenes.
Yeah, that's it.
But
she was older than 18.
She had to be older by that time when it happened in the show. But still, this is a formative part of her life. Like, she didn't have a personality, really, before she met Khal Drogo.
Yeah. She
was just kind of like this pawn who Viserion just toted around, like, I'm going to marry off my sister so that I can go get this Iron Throne.
She, honestly, I don't think she was, she ended up being portrayed as the big bad, like the ultimate force that they had to defeat.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool that they did that twist. The entire time it's like the Night King and Cersei.
Exactly.
And in the end it's like, nope, Dany.
Exactly.
And I think that's dope. Like, from a storytelling perspective, that is super cool. But she has the saddest storyline for me.
Yeah.
Just like as a whole, her life.
There's just
it's devastating.
So many times I was just like, Jon, just fucking forget about it.
Just kiss her.
You already hit it once. Just do it.
It's over. You already did it.
Yeah. Like, there's no like harm in doing it more, right? And it's not like you wouldn't enjoy it. Like, it's like
he and there was. I mean, I get it though. I also would not like to take part in an incestuous relationship.
I don't think I would like that either.
That's yeah. But like, he could have saved everybody.
Yeah.
If he just, given her a kiss.
I wonder how. So, Dany obviously had no reason or no problem with fucking her little cousin. Like.
Yeah, and like
or
her nephew.
Nephew, yeah. And
I think that's because the Targaryen bloodline, it's literally always been incestuous.
Yeah, exactly.
There have obviously been strays, Rhaegar getting with Lyanna and making Jon Snow, but the fact that she is the product of an incestuous relationship also feeds into the mental illness side of things.
It does.
And if we want to take another example of that, look at Joffrey. Then just
and
like
Tommen, really.
Tommen committed suicide.
But that was.
But there's a lot of layers.
Yeah, there's
there.
a lot of layers.
There's a lot of layers there, and I mean, I don't even remember where we were at. Dany being the product of incestuous relationships. All right, so like thousands of years of Targaryens have been produced in incestuous relationships. So of course she's not going to have a problem with the incestuous relationship.
Yeah.
Because like that's just what her family's done. Jon, again, was raised as a Stark. And in the North, that's not normal. That's not something they do.
Yeah. But nobody had to know.
Nobody had to know.
Nobody had to know. And I mean, that kind of brings back like these parallels with Cersei and Jaime, which obviously don't justify it. But God, it would have been that would have been so cool. Like it's kind of like that thing that didn't happen, which I probably wouldn't prefer happen, but it still would have been a little interesting to see.
Yeah, as if like, oh, speaking of that, and the finale.
Oh yes.
When we were watching.
Yes.
And Dany's making her pitch like, come on, we'll free the whole world together.
World.
And like Jon looks like he's enthralled. I was like, oh shit. And for a second I was like, fuck yes.
I know.
They're gonna burn the earth together. And I was like, and then they kiss and I'm like, oh my god, it's happening. And I heard, and I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's probably the right move. That's probably the way to go.
Did you like how quickly it happened?
I think it had to. I think. I mean, I don't know what else you kind of do there.
Yeah.
And I don't. In a way, I don't think it was quick. Considering.
That's true.
Considering the whole pitch and stuff leading up to it, like that entire thing is her death scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like she's like, he gave her every chance.
Yeah.
He kept going like, well, why does that? Why are you the person who gets to decide?
He's saying these pretty simple things,
and then she's like, well, I am, and he's like,
so,
no, damn it, say something else, say something else,
say something else, yeah.
And she's like, come on, we'll free the world, and he's like, God damn it, all right, I guess I have to kill you.
She's like literally so clouded by power that she believes that she is now the one who gets to dictate the definition of the good, which is, obviously
that's the downfall of any ruler.
But is it?
It can be.
It can be, but only if you have those people around you who are going to tell you this is the wrong thing to do. But think of, like, tyrants are not something that are uncommon, or tyrants are not people that haven't held power for long periods of time.
It's a valid point, yeah.
So it's like she just as well could have had that mentality and did it. We've seen it happen. What do you think? Like, Joffrey's a perfect example.
I was very afraid of that happening too. Yeah. I thought, like, after episode 5, I was like, well, shit, where do we go from here? Because after episode 5, it ends, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, Jon is retreating with the Northmen.
Yeah.
Is there any chance he goes outside the walls, regroups, and tries to take the city back? So, and I was like, no. I was like, if he did that, he's an idiot.
Yeah, that would be pretty stupid.
I mean, like, because she's got Drogon. The Unsullied, and the Dothraki. And an issue that they didn't... I was like, there's no way that Dany is gonna die after episode 5. Like, that was my thought. I was like, she might fucking rule this bitch.
Oh,
like, this show might end with her just killing everybody and being like, yep, I'm Queen of the Ashes. Like, that's it.
Queen of the Ashes.
And I think it's interesting, and this is a fault of the writing, is that they didn't make it clear or really make the Unsullied and the Dothraki a problem after Jon killed Tyrion. And, like, the biggest problem there was that, like, they were like, well, they can't do this. They are our prisoners. And I'm just like, dude, you're fucking Grey Worm. You don't give a fuck. Kill them.
Yeah, exactly. that was probably the most inconsistent part. But they wanted to set up this meeting between all the lords. So that, but so they fast forward right after he does it. Drogon burns the shit. Actually, let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, let's talk about that because that's beautiful.
What do you think about that symbolism?
I think it's perfect. For what it was. And, like, if you want to talk about how Dany always talked about how she wanted to break the wheel.
Oh, yeah.
Drogon fucking did it for her.
Drogon did it, yeah.
He burned the Iron Throne, which is ultimately what she was always after, what ended up making her break. Or not what made her break, but was the motivation behind her breaking. Yeah. And, God, that whole sequence was amazing. Jon killing her, Drogon coming in. Drogon nudging Dany with his nose.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you poor little bastard.
Yeah. I felt good about Drogon just leaving. Like, I can't imagine anyone else, like, him growing close or, like, being with anyone else or having anyone else ride him besides Daenerys.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really glad they didn't go the route of Jon taking in Drogon.
Yeah.
Because that would have been dumb. Yeah. Like, looking back. Like, I think in the moment, if they'd done it in a good way, I'd have been fine with it. But, like, looking back, the way they did it, I think is the best way they could have.
And honestly, Jon just seems fucking afraid of power. Like,
I don't think he's afraid of power. Because he's shown that he can handle it.
Oh, no, he can.
Time after time. I think it's just that, like, he's like, dude, fuck this. Like, all of you are coming at me like, you are the king. You are the chosen one.
And I'm just like,
dude, let me hang out with my wildlings.
My bros, the brodies, come on.
And what's funny is, like, if you want to get down to it, there's only one time in the entire series where we see John with the slightest bit of a personality. And it's when he's a wildling.
I know. You know? It's so good. I need to go back and watch that season.
I know, because, like, seasons 2, 3 is when he's, like, that's when the storyline for him is the Night's Watch and the wildlings.
Yeah.
It's 2, 3, and 4.
Uh-huh.
And I think during that season 2 specifically, I think is when he was in the wildlings. Mm-hmm. And he fell in love with Egret. I think that is by far the happiest and the most personality we've ever seen around John.
Yeah.
And that's why it makes me really happy that he went north of the wall at the end.
Exactly.
And I think that it's just unfair for anybody to go, well, it doesn't make sense. Why did they make John Aegon Targaryen?
Yeah, which it makes a lot of sense why they did that. Like, that was a huge conflict within Daenerys.
That's basically what started the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, exactly. That was the last scene of season 7.
Yeah.
7. But what do you think about the parallel between the relationship that Jon had with Ygritte versus the relationship he had with Daenerys?
I think it was almost too perfectly parallel. They had very similar storylines.
They did.
It was Egret, I'm totally down. We can do this. You are a crow, I'm a wildling, but I don't give a fuck. And I was like, you're a wildling. I can't do this.
I can't do this.
And he was going to, you know? Like, and honestly, I think if you want to get down to it, again, this is straying away from the parallels thing, but Jon and Dany never loved each other the way Jon loved Ygritte and Dany loved Khal Drogo.
So that is my problem, because it's like they spent episodes like fleshing out, hinting at this relationship that Jon and Ygritte would have, but you never, like, the first time that they met, I was like, I wonder,
because he didn't kill her.
Because he didn't kill her.
He took his sword and hit the rock, and he was like, damn.
And I was like, yep. Yeah. As soon as he did that, I'm like, uh-oh. And then, like, when it happened, it was so satisfying. But, like, Jon and Dany happened over a period of, like, an episode.
And that's what sucked about that, is that that was another fault of them making the story quick. And I think their thought process there was like, obviously it was always building to this point.
Yeah.
Like, and I get that. I always, like, that was always my thought at the beginning. I was like, oh, dude, I know they're nowhere near each other. They're on completely different continents, but they're totally going to bang.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was, like, my entire... I think that was everybody's kind of thought.
Yeah.
It was like, these are obviously the two main characters. Which actually isn't true. Jon wasn't, like, the main guy until, like, the 4th season, I don't think.
He was just, like, another storyline.
He was more like the equivalent of what I would say is Brienne.
Yeah.
For the first few seasons.
Yeah, that's fair.
So when you see, what I love about, and this goes back to the world building that they did, is they created a legend with Jon Snow.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
He literally rose from this bastard who his family didn't even really like, except for Ned. And he grew into the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
A friend of the Free Folk.
Brought them
all in.
The unification of the Free Folk.
And, like, and that's the thing. This dude was obviously a great leader.
Oh, yeah.
People wanted to listen to him. People wanted to follow him.
Some people did.
Yeah, and the ones who didn't were just assholes. And they got killed for it.
Nothing was more sad. I can't remember his name, but the bald guy that was one of the like head guys at the Night's Watch before Jon.
Yeah.
That guy fucking pissed me off.
That dude was annoying.
Holy shit, he was not worth shit. But he kept like being like, "Oh, you're just fucking Jon Snow. Nobody cares about you.
Nobody cares about you, bastard."
Yeah, and I'm just like, Jon Snow would whoop that ass.
Like, dude, anybody here can fight him right now.
I know.
There's only one person in that universe that would beat Jon Snow in a fight, and it's Arya Stark.
Oh yeah, that's probably true.
I can't imagine. I mean, I think Grey Worm would give him a run for his money.
I think so.
Just because they're such different styles of fighters. God, this entire thing is just a rabbit hole.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think Jon, his story, it's remarkable because at the beginning of the show, for the entire first season, and a lot of the second season, you are not thinking this guy is the guy.
Oh, no.
You're just thinking this guy is one of the guys.
Exactly.
And come 3, 4, and then 5, Hard Home. When Hard Home happened, holy shit, dude. That's when I was like, Jon Snow is the greatest person that's ever lived.
Oh, yes.
When he killed that White Walker.
Uh-huh.
And what's crazy is he whooped that White Walker's ass once he got a sword that like was able to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
He was like, bing! I was like, God damn! I was like, that was quick as fuck.
That shit. Yeah, no, he is like, to me, he's like this guy who just like, he's like that guy who kind of just does everything right. But like, he doesn't expect anything more because of it. He's just like, this was what was supposed to.
This is what Ned wanted me.
Yeah, exactly.
Wanted me to do.
Yeah, which, man, I love that relationship so much.
And what's crazy is we didn't even really get to see it.
I know.
But you knew it was there because of how Jon turned out.
Yeah.
Jon ended up being Ned. Like,
exactly.
And what's funny is like, my parents watched the show before I did.
Uh-huh.
And my dad kept watching the show after he watched season 1, and my mom stopped because they killed the main character.
She really didn't like it that much?
She didn't like it. And there was a lot... She was not alone in that.
Yeah, no.
She was not alone in that. A lot of people were like, man, fuck this. They just killed the main character. What are they going to do in the future?
I didn't like it either, but I was like, what are they going to do in the future?
That was the exact reason why I kept watching.
Yeah,
I was like... And
I was just like, they're on some shit. Like, they just killed the main Like, I've never seen... Like, no show has ever done that.
Ever. And it was amazing. And I think it's pretty cool that, like, now that we've seen the entire show and its entire scope, they didn't really kill the idea of who Ned Stark was because he kept living with Jon.
Exactly.
Like, Jon ended up being the ipso facto Ned Stark. Yeah. And I think that's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. That he ended up rising through the ranks, becoming king in the north, becoming Aegon Targaryen, the fucking
So
king.
the big pivotal moment for me with Jon was when he died.
Yeah.
And he came back to life.
Season 5 finale, Season 6, Episode 3.
Because that was
Jon's
just
my favorite character ever.
That was just like crazy to me. Like, I was like, this dude really like died for being a good person. Yeah. And he came back. Which brings the natural question of why. What's this Lord? They didn't. How do you like? This is obviously this fucking rabbit hole, but the Lord of Light.
Honestly, I think that's what's making this awesome. It's just a giant rabbit hole. We're going deep and deeper and deeper into this pit. It's amazing.
The Lord of Light brought him back to life because it was necessary. Obviously, we're assuming that's to kill Daenerys, but that's who is this Lord of Light? What are his motivations?
Dude, the Lord of... Honestly, I want an entire sequel or prequel revolving around the Red Witch group, because there's more than one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's one that popped in and met Daenerys.
There was.
Because I think there's like a league of them, quote unquote, in Essos.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's like a big deal. And I would love to learn more about what the Lord of Light is, because they make it seem like throughout that the Lord of Light's main foe is the Army of the Dead. Yeah. And the reason... The whole Prince Who's Promised thing is very unclear. They kept bouncing around as to who the fuck that could possibly be. And it could be Jon, it could be Arya, like even in the end, like I'm still there. Like that's still what I'm thinking. Yeah. And I think, because with Jon, the reason that Melisandre thought that he was the Lord of Light, or not the Lord of Light, the Prince Who Was Promised, was because she brought him back, and she thought he was going to be the leader who led them in the fight against the Army of the Dead, which he was. Yeah. He was the lead guy in that. Mm-hmm. But if you look at all the storyline, obviously Arya's there too. Like, she killed the Night King. Yeah. She ended it. So, like, and then Jon ended up killing the biggest foe that the world was going to face. Oh, yeah. Because she was like, yo, we're going to liberate all the world now. You see how easy that shit was?
You see what liberation looks like?
Look at him. It's fire.
In ash, you know?
And it's just... it's still really unclear where the Prince Who Was Promised prophecy lies. But I think it's pretty awesome. And, like... it's pretty awesome that they left so much open for me.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I like the interpretation part. I know that's
too.
not what you're supposed to do in television. Like, you're supposed to you're supposed to give people the answers.
Yeah.
But, like, I appreciated that. I understand why a lot of people didn't. Totally. Like, I don't blame you at all. But, like, I like being able to, like, go off on my own little tangents and thinking about what it is and what it could have been. And I think that is part of what makes this show a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. I think it does, too, because it allows there to be so much lore. Like, if you go on YouTube, you can find, like, 3-hour-long videos of them just, like, talking about the lore of Game of Thrones and, like, these different theories and these different, like, historical events that may or may not have happened. Now, I know George R. R. Martin has said, like, they're not all completely true. But the fact that he can even go back and be like, nah, that's wrong, is, like, already remarkable because, like, once again, he just created a whole fucking world of shit.
It's unbelievable, dude.
Which, honestly, like, it makes sense that there are so many, like, moving parts and so many, like, loose ends and things left to interpretation because, like, that's the nature of the world. Like,
exactly.
It's all a matter of, like, your prerogative, your interpretation, how you want to judge a specific thing in a specific moment. Like, it's not necessarily about what it is or what it isn't. It's about what you think it is, what you think it isn't.
And what's cool is, like, another aspect of this show that I think is pretty awesome is that the simplicity of the idea that, like, you need to know the history to not repeat it.
Oh, yeah.
And because what's cool is like it's not until, like, season 5 or 6, I think it's 6, that Dany even really learns who her dad was.
Oh, yeah.
Because Sir Barristan Selmy tells her, like, I served for your dad. He is the monster that everyone said. So her entire life, she lived thinking that was a lie. Her entire life, they were like, they wronged my father. They were all against him. They were out to get him because that's exactly what the Mad King also thought.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that she didn't even really learn who her father was, it just feeds into the idea that, like, she was bound to repeat it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an interesting story that they built with just kind of, like, these moral questions. I think there's a lot of that, like ethics is a very hard thing to judge, and I think that they really, like, gave that portrayal because, like, certain things you do because you're in a position, but certain things you don't, and you can't understand it because you're not in that position. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's truly just the depth and the scope of this show has been amazing.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to dive into specifically about the story is Bran.
Yeah, okay.
To wrap up the first hour here. We're 52 minutes in.
Damn.
So, the theory is that Bran made all this shit happen. Have you read into this at all?
Well, okay.
Has it occurred to you naturally?
I saw like the meme thing on Twitter. About,
where like his eyes turn blue.
Eyes turn blue.
Which honestly, I think would have been dope.
That would have been so cool.
Just like I kind of wish they would have ended with something that indicated Bran was a bad dude.
And it would have just been another like twist, which
just
is
another twist that like just kept it going, you know?
Uh-huh.
And like I like the idea that we can now just kind of be like, well, what was Bran? Mm-hmm. What did Bran do? Because there's still so much we don't know about him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, where was he the entire Battle of Winterfell?
Sitting by a tree. Apparently.
Exactly. He had his eyes rolled back in his head, and I know we saw those ravens fly off at the beginning and go find the Night King. But then, like, we never return to what Bran might be seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
What's he doing? Is he just making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to? Like...
Yeah. But then it's like, what's the point of that? It's not like he can be like, hey, get on your shit. Like, he can't speak from the Raven or anything, or they don't have walkie-talkies or anything, but it's like...
I just had a thought.
What's that?
That I've been having, or that I had during the Battle of Winterfell.
Okay.
That I hadn't really tied to Bran.
Oh, okay.
Every time Melisandre talks to somebody, it seems like their mind is very easily and quickly changed. And I thought that had something to do with the Lord of Light.
Okay.
But the fact that Bran keeps saying, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, makes me think that he has something to do with that. Like when Melisandre talks to Jorah at the very beginning and is like, tell your soldiers to put up their weapons. And then he like just kind of looks at her for a second and then he goes, and then like dude waves his hand. He's like, yeah, do it. And then later she's going to Davos. And like this could also just be what she said that made Davos stand down. Yeah. Where she's like, oh, don't worry, Sir Davos, I'll be dead by the dawn. And he like lets her pass. Then there's when she talks to Arya. What do we say to the god of death? Not today. And then she like looks at her, and without saying a word, she just runs off.
Yeah, she just goes.
Everything there just seems kind of abrupt and like pretty like, oh yeah, okay, I know what I need to do. Yeah. Like yeah, I got this. And it's almost like someone had to have set them on a path like that. I obviously it could have been just that like they were like yeah, but there's a lot of stuff that just seems...
I think that is a part of her abilities or her powers or whatever you want to call them, because she's supposed to be this person who interprets the will of the Lord of Light, can see visions, flashes of the future, and get sort of similar to how what Bran explained is like he doesn't know exactly what's going to happen, but he knows certain things that should happen to set up what should happen, or what's supposed to happen. But it's really, it brings into this question of like fatalism for me. Like, did everything that happened, was it predestined to happen?
And I get that vibe. I get that vibe from the show big time. Like, it just seems like a lot of the stuff, it was just like, this is what was supposed to happen, so that's why it happened. Which, in a way, I'm not a fan of. Yeah. That kind of sucks, but I understand it. Yeah. Like, I get it. And I don't have a huge problem with it, but, like, I don't like the idea that none of these choices that these characters made throughout their stories, the idea that those weren't their own, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of I just got done watching the Matrix trilogy, which is the only reason I'm saying this, but, like, it's a huge question in the Matrix, like, do we make choices? Yeah. Or are we just, pawns in this big game? Yeah. But then the question
Game of Thrones, but go ahead.
Who's playing the game, though?
God damn, dude, we're getting into it. All right. So, the entire conversation of predestiny and just all of this. The levels that Bran would have to go to, I think it's almost... I mean, it's completely not unreasonable. Oh, no. Therefore, it is reasonable. Yeah. I could have just said that. That the idea that Bran definitely could have done all this, just given his power.
Oh, yeah, he could have.
He obviously has an influence on the past. We saw it when he went back and yelled, "Father," to Ned Stark when he was running up to Lyanna to birth Jon. Yeah. He was like, and then Ned turned around and he was like, what the hell? He was like, what the fuck was that? And so, like, clearly he has an influence on the past with Hold the Door, Hodor, like that whole thing. So, it's almost too much to think about how much... Because we don't even know what his abilities into the future are like.
Exactly, yeah.
Because we saw his vision of a dragon flying over King's Landing. We didn't get much else other than that.
Oh, no.
For his glimpses into the future. Yeah. So, like, what the fuck is this kid doing?
I think that there is a really hard-to-explain variable, which is the Night King. Because the Night King isn't a character in the books. So, this is a completely show-created character. Yeah. Like, obviously, the White Walkers and everything exist, but there is no Night King. Yeah. Someone with this crazy power to throw spears at dragons and shit. But... they're tied somehow.
There actually is a character in the book named the Night's King.
Yeah, Night's King. But isn't there a different
It's a different idea. He's the Night's King, I believe in the books. I don't know if I'm 100% correct on this, is a Stark.
Okay. Yeah.
And he beds it's still kind of up in the air. It's lore at this point, like whether or not it was a White Walker or a wildling, but they birthed something or someone, and it will grow into the Night King, quote unquote. And that's part of the lore. Like, that's not explicitly stated in the books, but I believe that is part of the lore.
Okay.
Which is just the fact that there can be a story with this much lore surrounding it is remarkable.
Oh, yeah. Well, looking at how they talk about it in the show, at least, or the continuity of it, they describe the Night King as a person who the Children of the Forest created.
Yeah.
To fight back against what was it?
The First Men.
Yeah, the First Men. That's what it was. And so my only question is, like, where had this Night King, or the first White Walker that they created, that was thousands and thousands of years ago. What had he been doing, like, before then? Like, did he do the long night or like the first long night and then fail and just retreat, or like?
Yeah, now we're getting into the lore completely. There's there's a theory that what happened there is the First Men and the Children of the Forest had to team up to fight the Army of the Dead.
Yeah.
Which, that's not lore. That is what the show says happened.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the solace and the peace they found somehow is still very unclear. So I think the way that the lore goes is that the Night King and the Children of the Forest and First Men made a deal where they built this wall. You guys stay on that side for as long as you guys, for thousands, like 10,000 years or something like that.
Okay.
When we are long gone. So it was kind. I think the deal is like, it was kind of just a, we're not dealing with this. We'll fuck the future of humanity. Like that's what it is. Like that's what it comes down to for me. That's because logically I don't understand how else it would work.
Yeah.
There had to have been a deal where they gave the White Walkers something to retreat.
Exactly.
Or not retreat, but just fall back. Not fuck with them. So like I don't really know what it may have been, and I think that's part of what I think we're gonna dive into with this prequel.
Oh yeah, no.
Is how that stuff came to be, because there's so much that we just do not know.
Yeah, and like I knew from the beginning when they built up this like threat of the White Walkers that would like you knew in season 1 that this would grow, that they would not be able to stop them easily.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole other thing going on with the throne, which means you have these two conflicts that could both equally drive its own story in one story. So it made it hard for them, I think, to kind of give everything about the White Walkers, especially when they weren't supposed to, like, they were supposed to be like this final big threat in the last season. So I guess that might have made it difficult, but like there is still so much that we don't know. That's true.
All right. We got 30 minutes left on this recording I have going.
All right.
I'm thinking we dive into this the bests.
Oh yeah.
That we have here.
Let's do that.
What's funny here is we have best battle, best character development, and in parentheses on this outline I have Jamie, because I made this. I think after the first episode, or after the second episode of season 8, I was like, shit. Oh yeah, Jamie's gonna turn out just fine. And then best couple, best overall moment, and we're gonna have to start a new recording for that one. And then that's all we have for here. So let's start with best battle. What was your favorite battle throughout the entire series?
So the Battle of the Bastards was one that really like it really like I thought that they were going, I thought it was over. Like I
was like, well, goddamn, they're gonna have Ramsay win.
Over. And I was like, I just see like Jon Snow like fucking
getting trampled, climbing out of the top of there.
That was always funny to me. Like I saw a meme a while back. It was like, Jon Snow, why the fuck are you so valiant? Like he's just like standing down a fucking dragon, like standing down an army, like he has any chance.
Exactly. Like literally every time that that situation has come up, when all of them are charging at him, because he's in the middle of the field, Ramsay did exactly what he wanted him to.
Exactly.
He drew out. He
God,
drew out
so
Rickon. Was it Rickon?
Yeah,
is that
Rickon.
Was that the little kid?
He was running back.
Yeah, he was running back to Jon. Jon went to go meet him. He drew Jon into open field. Yeah. Exactly what he wanted to do, which is exactly what Sansa told him not to. He was like, "Don't do what he wants you to."
Exactly.
And then he stands there facing down.
Yeah,
an entire army.
I'm just gonna.
Which honestly, one of the most badass moments of the entire show.
Badass as fuck.
Every time I watch that, chills. I have chills talking about it right now. It's like when he draws that sword and he's like, just like looks at them. I'm like, amazing. And then he did it with Viserion, a dead fucking dragon.
I know, what the like, you think you're gonna, like...
I don't think he thought he was gonna slay that dragon. I think he was obviously like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing he did when Drogon came, when he killed Dany.
Yeah,
he just stood up, he was like...
He was just like, if you're gonna take me, do it.
Take me.
He's not afraid of death. But
that dude's been having a death wish for years.
Like, looking at the context of that battle, it was, like, so huge to me because... I don't know about you, but fuck Ramsay Bolton.
Oh my god, I don't know. If you are not in that pool, fuck you, dude. Yeah. Ramsay Bolton is the most evil fucker on the entire series. You can't convince me otherwise.
You really cannot. He's so sadistic.
And there's a big debate there. Cersei or Ramsay, who's more evil? Ramsay. 10 times out of 10. Cersei, the enjoyment she takes from the pain she gives others is because she has a personal vendetta against them. Ramsay... Who the fuck was Theon to Ramsay? Ramsay just captured Theon and tortured him just because.
Yeah, I know.
Just because he was like, "'Cause I like it."
When they were like, he literally like enjoys pain by virtue of itself. Which
if you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been watching.
Oh yeah, I was just like when from the moment that that Ramsay like freed Theon and let him go and like. Gave him hope just to be like, haha,
fuck you.
I was just like, yo, this dude's evil as fuck. Like, this is like...
Cut off Theon's favorite toy.
That is... And, like, just, like, all of the... And it lasted for so long. Like, they've... See, this is, like, where I think Game of Thrones did their best work was when they were taking these storylines and, like, fleshing them out over episodes.
Because they gave us a lot of beef between... Well, they gave us a lot of reason to hate Ramsay.
Oh, yeah.
And they gave us a lot of reason to recognize that there was a hatred between Jon Snow and Ramsay.
Yeah.
And they never come face to face.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is amazing. The fact that you knew it was there.
Yeah.
They could not stand each other. Mm-hmm. Well, Ramsay, I don't think he really gave a fuck about Jon Snow. It was just kind of like, you're there, this is your home, fuck you. Like,
yeah, basically.
I like to kill people.
Yeah. And then, so he does that with Theon, and we haven't even talked about Sansa yet.
Oh, God.
That was so
Dude, fuck Ramsay Bolton.
God damn it. He made Theon watch. Like, I was like...
Oh, I forgot about that part.
I was like, oh my God. Like, this, I don't know if I've seen, like...
That's the most evil thing I think that's been done. Yeah,
I know that this show, obviously, they were allowed to do whatever the fuck they wanted, but some of it I was like,
that's a lot.
Some lines.
That's
like,
a lot, dude.
Jesus Christ, like fuck.
If you want to get down to it, the most evil shit that happened in this show always happened to Sansa.
Oh yeah.
Sansa was tortured. Mm-hmm. She was raped by Ramsay while he made Theon watch. Joffrey showed her dad's head on a spike outside of King's Landing.
After killing him in front of her after she begged him not to.
And what's crazy about that is, like, people look back on that and think Cersei was a bitch. Cersei was telling him, do not do this.
Yes. Yeah.
Please do not do this.
Jesus Christ, like...
Yo, you can't do that.
This is fucked.
There are rules to this evil shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were only two people who violated the rules to this evil shit.
Oh, yeah.
Joffrey and Ramsay. Dany ended up breaking the rules, but I don't think it was because of evil shit. Cersei broke the rules, but it was also because of personal vendetta.
Yeah.
Joffrey and Ramsay broke the rules because they were fucking evil.
Oh, yeah. Fucking evil. And God. Well, I think we can agree that the worst character was Ramsay. Or
By
Joffrey. But who's the best character?
Whew. That's tough. I think, if you want to get down to it, I think in the end, the best character there was, in terms of just overall who they were, and staying true to who they were, through and through was Jon or Brienne. The only time we ever saw Brienne even slightly stray from who she was is when Jaime was leaving.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people may have interpreted that incorrectly. Because if you want to, like the way I took it, or the way I had to justify it in my head, because I was like, why'd they do that?
Yeah.
You can't have Brienne go out like that.
Right.
I think it's because Jaime was the only man, or the only person, really, that she'd let see all of her.
Yeah.
Like, physical, emotional, everything.
Exactly.
Jaime was the only man or anybody that could do that to her.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I took it. I was like, Jaime's the only person who has that kind of effect on her. And in that, I was okay with it. I think Brienne, through and through, was the most honorable.
I think so, too.
Most true to her character, most loyal. Just overall, the best character on the show.
Yeah. She was a knight through and through, I think.
Gosh, and that scene.
When she got knighted, that was...
And she smiled. That smile, man.
That was
That
awesome.
made me so happy.
Yeah. One thing about her thing with Jaime was, to me, I was like, I think Jaime's arc is supposed to show us that people can be good.
Yeah. And they can be...
And people can be bad. They can be both. And really, like, I think they try to tie in, like, love is this, which is a common thing that you see in stories, but
you kind of have to have an aspect of love, or else it's not going to be
X
as compelling.
Factor where it's like it just kind of sways them one way or the other. They do what they do because of this love.
Absolutely.
But I don't think, like, I know for a fact that Jaime Lannister was deep down a good person.
Exactly. He was,
and Brienne knew that too.
He was the best version of himself when he was away from Cersei.
Yeah.
With Brienne. Or not, you didn't even have to be with Brienne.
Yeah,
you know?
really.
If he was just doing something that didn't involve Cersei, you were shown that this dude was good.
Exactly, yeah.
If he was going to sack a city, it was for Cersei. If he was with Cersei, he was with Cersei. You know what I'm saying? That Cersei fucked that dude up. It was his heroin.
I don't even think it was, like, Cersei specifically, but the Lannister name. Like... It's like his whole, like, not Tyrion, obviously, but, like, his father, this person who treated him like the golden boy, like, all through his life, and he became that golden boy until he lost his hand, obviously. But the bond
then he became literally a golden boy. Ha
and, like, the bond that he was able to get with Brienne over, like, what he did there was just, like, I think it really, like, solidified that he is capable of being that good person. But... the you know, if you thought this was gonna be a happy ending, you're wrong.
Yep, you haven't been paying attention. Yeah.
So.
And in a way, that does give Jaime the best character development.
In a way, but I have a different argument to make.
Let's talk about it then. Best character development.
Theon Greyjoy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but when he sacked Winterfell, I was pissed.
There was a point...
When he killed the fucking Maester? He killed the Maester, right?
God, yeah. I was like, Theon's unforgivable.
I was like, no, I'm never fucking.
Actually, you know, the first time I watched it and he got captured by Ramsay, I was like, I was like, you know what?
No,
fuck
me
you,
too.
Theon.
Me too. I didn't know what he was gonna do though at that time, but I was just like, yeah, no, this dude, like, they were there telling him, like, dude, like, this is, like, technically, like, your other family, like, your step family, like, they raised you. Nah, they stole me, and it's like, bro, like,
and like that is one of the most he has one of the most compelling stories of anybody in the show too, because that is true. They did take him as a prisoner in the battle in which the Greyjoys rebelled.
Yeah,
they took him as a prisoner, and they raised him.
Yeah,
which is interesting that Ned Stark was just like, we're not going to give you back to the Greyjoys. You're going to be my son.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's not a lot of people out there who are better than Ned Stark.
No. I don't know if there's...
Anybody.
Yeah. I don't really know if there's anybody. But, like, and it's all, like, you have to look at everything that Ned Stark did in terms of duty, because that was his thing.
That's what he needed to do.
Yeah, and he was like, the Greyjoys rebelled. We gotta whoop their ass real quick and, do what we normally do with the people who fucking
You're a kid. I don't want to kill you.
Yeah, but he's like...
But I can't give you back.
Exactly. Yeah, because he's like, I'm not... Fuck the Greyjoys, which was a fair thing to say because fucking his father was a piece of shit.
Dude,
but
Theon's dad was a douche.
Yo, he was a dick. What did he do when he sent him his fucking...
He was like, well, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And Yar's just like...
Yar's like, yo, we gotta do something. And he's like, no, we don't.
And he's like, hey, he took Winterfell. He wasn't supposed to do that. And she's just like, dude, this is your... Like, what would Ned Stark... What do you think? Like,
Ned Stark would have flipped his fucking shit.
Oh my god.
It's over.
Ned's like...
It's over for Ramsay Bolton.
He'd have been... He'd have sent the whole
fucking... like, and that's what's cool about that, too.
Yeah.
Is, like, Theon's birth dad didn't do shit about it.
Mm-hmm.
If the same thing would have happened and Ned Stark would have been sent Theon in a box, he would have done something about it.
Yeah.
It's not even his blood.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that just shows you who Ned Stark is as a person. But looking at Theon's character development, like, he starts out as, like, this kind of, like...
Just a background kind of. He was just kind of there.
And then he like, generally, like, gets more important, like, starts doing shit. And then... he leaves the Starks, goes back to his, like, family, which at the time it seemed kind of like, you know what, makes sense.
Yeah, I'm
Ned's
like, that's
dead.
your family, it makes sense.
Yeah. But then it's just massive drop. Like, we're just like, fuck.
We're like, oh, goddamn, like, dude.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell? And then he just, like, goes through all of this shit, and he just, like, literally they go into the depths of his character. Like, Ramsay literally psychologically torments this dude. Like, changes
to the point
him.
where he is Reek.
Yeah, and like, he is a new person. Like, he's not even Theon.
He's not
anymore.
Theon.
But then they took that, like, Reek, which I think symbolizes a lot of, like, the dirty shit that, like, Theon did.
Yeah, he reeks.
And they just built it back up. Right back up until he was, like, the
until
Theon Greyjoy who protected Bran Stark. And it's like...
To the Theon Greyjoy who sacked Euron's ship and took Yara back.
Exactly.
And there might not have been a death scene that was, like, more valiant in the entire series than the parallel of Theon protecting Bran by going at the Night King while Jorah was protecting Daenerys.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. That was really cool.
Long live my man's Jorah. I love Jorah.
Oh, Jorah's great. I think they did a great job, too, of making you, like, not making it easy. Like, that character development that they did with Reek, it shouldn't have been easy, and it wasn't. Like, when he left his sister to die...
He had a lot of dissonance.
Yeah.
It was not easy for him.
Yeah, and I was like... Because when he did that, I was like, God damn it, Theon, I wanted to root for you, but you just fucking left your sister. Like, you just jumped.
But you're like, yeah, and then, like, he comes back around, and you're like, yeah. That's just... I can't blame you. There's still that part of your brain that's like that, you know?
Exactly. Like, that's what happens when you're, like, rewired to chill.
Yeah, and, like, it's crazy that's... They even showed that dissonance before he became Reek.
Oh, yeah.
There's a parallel between Theon and Reek and Greyjoy and Stark.
Oh, yeah.
The way he did that is because, like, he grew up as Stark. He loved them, really.
Oh, yeah, he did.
And then he betrayed them, which was his Reek, like you said.
Yeah.
And then he battled with that forever.
He did.
He never really got out of battling that until Jon saw him in season 7 or 8. I can't remember which one it was. And he was like, you can be both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which also plays into his storyline. He was like, you can be both. It's fine.
He's like,
we love you, Theon.
Yeah, that was... It was sad. Like, his death, I didn't feel like... Like, obviously we lost the character, but I felt like it was the right thing, like, for him to die in that moment.
Oh, for sure.
Because, like, especially protecting Bran, and Bran, like, that was, like, I love how Bran's always just sitting there and being like...
Yep. He's like, yeah.
He's
but like, I also thought when I watched that episode the first time, that was like the first glimpse, I think, of the first time we saw Bran show feelings after becoming the Third Eye Raven.
Oh, yeah.
Where he was like... And I also think it was because he learned from his past when... I can't remember the name of the chick who carried him around in a wheelbarrow.
Oh, yeah.
But when she dropped him off at the north and he was like, all right, bye. Instead of saying thank you, you're a good woman, he was just like, yep. And she was like, no, thank you? You can't even do this? Like, goddamn, dude, I know you don't have feelings, but, like, say something.
My brother died for you.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I almost died for you.
And I think it's cool that even the Three-Eyed Raven, they showed that he can even learn.
Yeah.
Like, it was...
Yeah, so I've definitely heard that explanation that Bran... like from when he first became the three-eyed raven, didn't really know how to be a human, but he
kind of learned. Like he's like, I know what I'm supposed to do. It's not that like he was like really feeling stuff like that. It was that he was like, I know what I'm supposed to say. I know that these people are like my family. I grew up with these people. Yeah. They know me.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is, it's a weird position to be put in, I think, if you're Bran, because it's
absolutely.
Like, I don't like, y'all understand, like, this life is just one of fucking many. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I can see, like, everything.
Yeah, he's like, dude, you don't want to know the shit in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, when he was like, Theon, you're a good man. I was like, come on,
I know.
Bran.
It's like, Dave, you know,
I was like, he was a good man. He did that shit.
He's gonna redeem himself. And it's just really great.
Theon Greyjoy definitely did have arguably the best character development there was in the show.
Yeah, I think so too. So, what was your favorite overall moment?
Before season 8, my favorite moment in the entire series was Bran's narration of explaining Jon Snow as the true heir to the Iron Throne.
That was cool.
Where like they're doing the back and forth of the ceremony and the birth and Jon boning his aunt and just all this going back and forth, and he's like, he's never been a bastard. He's the heir to the Iron Throne. I was it's like, this is amazing.
God, that was so cool. Yeah, that was really just like one of those things where it's kind of like, I don't know, like I always kind of like wanted to. I was really hoping they didn't leave that like loose. Like, who was Jon Snow's mother? I'm
glad that we got that answer.
Because I was like,
the entire time before we got it confirmed that his parents were Rhaegar and Lyanna, I was like, when I thought Ned Stark was his dad, I was like, well, who the fuck's his mom?
Exactly.
Like, that's got to be important.
Yeah.
There's no way they're just like, nope, it was just some whore.
He never gave. Yeah, it was just. I was like, this just doesn't seem characteristic
fit, you know?
of Ned Stark. Like, he is the noblest Nick.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of that was it.
Whatever.
But like that, like he was it, and like even like in the first episode when Robert's like, who was that whore?
Yeah.
She had to be pretty sexy, huh?
You know, whatever.
Yeah, he's like,
he's like, man, you don't want to know, cuz.
He was like, that'd be a whoop.
I was over here and I was like, you know that?
Basically, yeah. For me, I think the best the most
there's just so
thing,
many.
There are, and I think a lot of people agree that the Red Wedding deserves.
Oh yeah, it's
like not even what happened necessarily. It was surprising, but the way that it happened,
the way they played the Reigns of Castamere, the song about betraying in the background, Catelyn Stark kind of catching on like, holy shit, why is this song playing? Like, this song shouldn't be playing.
Exactly.
And she turned around, she was like, and then they were like, slit. Like,
that was and like,
I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I did not expect it at all. And like when they the baby thing, that was another one of those things where I was like,
oh dude, you know, what's
Jesus
weird about
Christ.
just like personally, I can handle like a slice.
Yeah.
When they do jabbing and stabbing, like,
and like the way that it happened was
I'm like, oh god, no.
It was so abrupt. They're just like, and I'm just like, and like they just start like slaughtering everyone. And then like Rob, like I was still hoping that Rob would survive, but I was like, there's no way he survives. And like he's just getting shot with these arrows, and I'm just like, yo, what is happening? And then Catelyn Stark, that was the craziest shit to me. Like, if anyone went out like an OG, then fucking Catelyn Stark went out.
She was like, you kill him, I kill yours.
Yeah. and then like,
and then they didn't. She was like, fine.
Yeah. So the way that they shot that, the way like it was kind of like it was like silent, where like they kill him, she screams, slices the neck, and it's silence. Yeah. And then someone just walks up,
kills her, and you're like, yeah.
And like
I remember sitting there just kind of like, oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. I was
like
just
spent.
like that.
I was like emotionally, physically, everything. I was just dead. I was like, oh my god.
Like that was one of the moments when that happened. I just kind of sat there and I was just like,
I need to reevaluate everything.
Yeah. I was just like, holy shit, Walder Frey is a fuck.
What's crazy is, like, I know we've already been talking about this for an hour and 20, but, like, I could seriously keep doing this for another hour and 20.
Oh, honestly.
What's cool is on my first watch, I loved Rob. I liked Rob a lot.
I did too.
On my second watch, I was kind of like, damn, Rob, you kind of stupid as fuck.
He seemed to be just kind of like a warrior, not really a king.
He was a commander. Like, he was made for battle.
Oh yeah.
That dude was built for that shit, you know? The parallels between him and John in the end are pretty remarkable.
Oh yeah.
Where for him, love was the death of duty, and John, duty was the death of love.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty awesome that they ended up bringing that around.
Yeah,
like that.
I do too. Those are some like really cool themes I like. My favorite though, like my favorite thing that they kind of thread throughout the entire series was this idea that family is the wheel, and family is the wheel that needs to be broken. Yeah. Not necessarily like delegitimizing like these houses, but just like the organization of society.
Yeah.
And how it was, the fact that Jon Stark couldn't, or Jon Snow. Jon Snow.
He was a Stark. If we're gonna get down to it.
Jon Snow couldn't he wasn't even recognized as anything beyond a bastard. Was just like, it's kind of like they kind of thread these ideas of how family causes these problems.
Yeah. And then they sow the threads of their own destruction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's easily evident in the Lannister bloodline. It's evident in the Targaryen bloodline, and it's evident in the Starks even. Just with the way that Ned protected Jon, but therefore everyone else hated him.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Like that was just how it went.
Yeah.
And that is remarkable that they were like, I like that Tyrion was the one who proposed it. It was like, let's fuck this family shit,
fuck this family shit. It's just like, thank you, because like you were literally like giving these unborn children who will be raised into
the right
Joffrey conditions just power, because they are who they are. Like, that should not be how things work, especially when like there are people who actually deserve that shit and people who will be better at that shit, and like.
And if you want to get down to it, there ain't a better option for King than Bran fucking Stark.
Oh no,
that dude, he is, well, seemingly unfeeling. We don't really know. But he's unbiased. He knows he knows all of the history. Therefore, going back to the idea that I had earlier, just do not repeat the history.
Exactly.
He knows it all.
He's the ultimate pragmatist, and I think that's what's important. And like that's something like even like myself personally, when I'm like thinking about like leadership positions I'm in, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I would want to like do that. But Bran Stark wouldn't have any problem, because he'd just calculate that shit out.
He'd just be like, yeah, you know what? That's the move.
This is what. That's the move. Yeah. He's the guy everyone can be like, so like, you know what to do, and he's like,
hold on. I have to go now.
I have to go. Yeah, he's like, let me see. And then 5 minutes later, he's like,
yeah.
He's like, just continue doing what you were doing. Wait, but just do it.
But like a bunch of people are gonna die. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like something that you kind of need in that ideal leader, I think.
And yeah, it is an ideal leader, but it's also very dangerous to have an all-knowing being as your leader.
Yeah.
It puts him in a very godlike position, especially since the three-eyed raven lives for thousands of years.
Oh shit, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't even think
And what's crazy is I don't think a lot of them know that. I think a lot of them were like, yeah, you know what, Bran will live a nice life.
About the three-eyed raven.
None of them do, except Tyrion. Tyrion was the only one, which makes me think Tyrion feeds into some of the idea that he's like, yeah, like...
What if that... I cannot not believe that Tyrion and Bran did some plotting.
Oh, they had to.
They had to.
When they had that little off-screen chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're winding down on this hour and a half here.
Okay.
Hour and 28. Want to sign off and save it for another episode? I could do this again.
I could do this again too.
You know what? Let's sign off. Let's shout out your socials.
I don't even know.
What's your Twitter?
What is my Twitter? Oh, @Tava_Penn. PENN. TAVA for the first one.
Follow me on Twitter @Coro Bloom. If you haven't caught on, this is the Penny Bloom podcast.
Penny Bloom.
Reason for that: his last name's Pennington. My last name's Robertson, which doesn't make a lot of sense as to why my name's Coro Bloom, but that's where it comes from. My artistic name, Coro Bloom.
Google Teddy Bloom.
Teddy Bloom.
SoundCloud.
It's a whole different
Spotify,
being.
Apple Music.
You'll see.
Check it out.
You know what? This has been fun.
It has.
Penny Bloom Podcast, Episode 1, complete.
Complete.